Welcome to Scaling Without Breaking podcast, the show for startup leaders who are done winging it and sick of everything being a bottleneck. Your team's growing, the cracks are showing, and what got you here is officially breaking. Each week, you'll hear raw stories, sharp strategies, and real talk from founders, operators, and advisors who've scaled through chaos and built companies that run without constant firefighting. If you're ready to start leading like a CEO and move beyond just surviving, you're in the right place. Here is your host, Roland Siebelink.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Scaling Without Breaking. These are candid conversations with high-growth founders. I'm Roland Siebelink, and this podcast is for startup leaders who are ready to lead like CEOs. Today, I'm talking with someone who took a completely unconventional path to building one of the most exciting platforms in the music industry. While every other competitor was fighting over the US market, he quietly dominated Latin America with artists like Anitta, one of the top 10 artists globally. Now he's bringing that playbook to North America, and the story of how he got here, including what broke along the way, is exactly the kind of real talk that we do on this show. So, my guest started as a tennis player, training 3 to 4 hours a day in Madrid until an injury at 15 ended that dream. But instead of giving up, he redirected that same discipline into teaching himself guitar through YouTube tutorials, forming a rock band that performed across Spain. And when his father insisted on a real education, he studied business and law across Spain and UNC. That led to 5 years in private equity and venture capital, where he discovered his true passion wasn't writing checks, it was building things. And today, he runs SESH, a fan community management platform that's solving a problem that every artist faces. They depend 100% on their fans, but they have zero visibility into who those fans actually are. And along the way, he's learned some brutal lessons about scaling, like growing to 48 employees before generating a single dollar of revenue, hiring the wrong people for impressive CVs rather than culture fit, and watching 6 team members quit because of one toxic hire. This is exactly the kind of mess that happens in that mid-stage, and our guest is going to share how he cleaned it up. Today, I want everyone to meet my guest, Pepe del Rio, the founder and CEO of SESH. Welcome to Scaling Without Breaking, Pepe.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you for having me on this podcast. I'm really looking forward to sharing more things, and hopefully some of the things we've been through help anyone that is going through that right now.
Well, of course, you have lots of amazing accomplishments to talk about as well. And we do always want our founders to look good. Everything in startup doesn't go over roses, right? So we have to deal with the difficult stuff as well. And I love to delve into both a little bit. But let's start with that first question, Pepe, if it's okay for you. You've dominated Latin America with artists like Anitta, while all your competitors were fighting over the US market. And now you're bringing that playbook to North America. So how do you attack a market where you are not the incumbent?
That's a great question, actually. I guess that every market is different. What we saw at the beginning is anyone that was trying to build in this space came from the music industry with a lot of network and a lot of contacts that they could leverage to onboard big artists or close big partnerships. On our case, we were from a lost town in the middle of the world that is called Spain. We had no network, not contacts within the music industry. So it was all about of building the best product. And I think that is what made us win within that market, because we were able to spend time actually on doing what we should be doing, that is solving that problem or solving that specific need. It took us a lot of time. I'm not gonna lie, it took us a lot of crazy hours. So we thought it was the same problem, but at the end, we weren't solving it properly. We tested with many artists, small ones at the beginning. And actually, when we started in Madrid, where I'm from originally. Then we moved to Miami. The reason why I moved to Miami was because one of the small artists we started testing it with, that is called Timo, amazing band from Colombia that are in right now amazingly well. They grew. I think they're like medium to top, one of the top bands right now in Latin America. So they really deserve everything that is happening to them. And we just saw that the product was working with them, and they just started talking about that specific product to other artists, peers, and those leads to managers knowing about us, to label managers, distribution companies. And then from suddenly, I don't know what happened, because I remember February 2022, I took a flight first time to Miami, and I remember start texting and writing everyone that worked at the music industry, trying to meet anyone I could. I was able to secure just one meeting, one
Oh
single meeting.
no.
That meeting was with the business manager of Shakira, Maluma, like many big artists. And actually, I remember he telling me like, but what we were trying to do was almost impossible. That we had no network. That how the hell we were gonna do that? The idea or the concept was great, but how we were gonna get actually the big artists and the big players to on board. I think it was 14 months later, he ended up investing in us. And I remember moving to Miami and finally having all the meetings that we weren't able to secure. And it was just because instead of me or anyone from the team reaching out to have this meeting, it was the product who was talking. It was the artist that was referring to other artists. Hey, have you tried this? It's working amazingly well for me. And I think in our case, our biggest weakness that was we have no network, turning out to be our biggest advantage too, because it gave us more time to really focus on product development, just on product, and also to build those relationships from scratch. Anyone that knows us from the that comes from the music industry knows us because of we are the fan community platform that is trying to solve that those issues
That
that they.
does sound like a counterintuitive answer, right? Because most founders will tell me, like, look, I was building the product, then it turned out I didn't have a go to market, I didn't have a network, right? And so we really had to learn to focus most of our attention on the go to market. But you're saying actually the opposite. No, it just gave us more time to focus on the product and thereby create a true fan base. Is that what you're saying?
I think it varies. It depends on the industry you're building, I guess. As an investor, I keep investing right now. It's important the go-to-market strategy and the product.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the kind of industry you're tackling, it varies. Sometimes it's way more important the go-to-market strategy because product hasn't had a huge differentiator between the competition. So what really makes the differentiation is if you're capable of onboarding the right people,
Yep.
closing the right partners, and so on. In our case, we thought the music industry was something like that because the music industry is not that big. Not a lot of people control the music industry. If you're able to log those guys in, you assume that you will be able to make it through. Surprisingly, what we've seen it's the opposite because the music industry has been trying to solve this problem for the last 7 to 10 years, and
Mm.
all the times they fail. And people that has been doing amazing work, but also that has huge networks within the music industry. So what we've seen is that the music industry was tired of trying new things. They were like, no, this is something that no one is going to solve. And that gives us the advantage of, okay, let's focus on what they really need. That is a product that works. Because beforehand, people that really understood the problem, they had people that really had a huge network that came with a lot of credentials with huge artists, but you're really solving my problem, yes or no? And the truth is that we didn't do that at the beginning either when we tried to secure all these meetings and try to onboard all those artists. We thought we did, but we didn't. And it was a matter of keep building and building and building and having the possibilities of testing it with a small artist that trust that at the beginning, what led us actually to build something that we do think that has disrupted somehow the music industry in some parts.
So how were you able to solve this problem that nobody else had been able to figure out?
By failing so many times. When you onboard very big artists, like the ones you've mentioned that are already working with us and many others that has been working with some players of our competition, if you fail, there's no way anyone is going to trust you again. And you have a very little room to rebuild from that. It's not that we were super smart and we were able to build the best product from day one. No, it's that we failed maybe 27, 30, 35, 40 times with many different artists testing many different things. We started, first of all, the company that is now like the product is SESH. The company was
Yep.
called Coffee. And we trade that. And we trade that because we were able to start from scratch because we failed so many times that we thought at that point it didn't matter because we didn't have any customers when we changed the name. By any chance, these artists ask about Koki, there's no way they're gonna test with us because we've screwed it up like so many
Oh,
times.
so you had to like rebrand every time you had screwed up.
That was the idea, actually. Point.
Wow, that's amazing.
Suddenly, we find out certain things that, for example, within our industry now seems obvious, but no one paid attention to, and is artists are not content creators. There are
Hmm.
music creators, which is very different. But we keep treating them as content creators. That's a first issue. Then thinking that every artist is the same. Every art is completely different, and every fan base is
Hmm.
completely different, which means like if I have a fan base of 500,000 fans, I cannot expect that those 500,000 act and expect the same things from me. If I'm not able to treat them differently, it's impossible for me to work. And that's
So you
why
had to
so
learn segmentation almost, like the different kinds of businesses behind the artists.
exactly.
Hmm.
And what we've done is focus on, okay, we're gonna treat artists as individual companies. Each
Yeah.
artist a company that operates what they are. It's a company. Then we're gonna help them, give them the tools so they're capable of analyzing their clients, who they are, what they want, and what is the best way to engage and monetize them. And then the tools for them to be able actually to take action on that data. And that's the thing that has worked out very well for us. But we've failed so many times, and I think that's the difference between us and our competition. That
What made you succeed in the end, though? I mean, failing many times is good, right? But in the end, you do have to succeed as well. What made it click?
I think is when I see an answer, normally I'm the guy that sees like on the time number 10, not a straightforward. So it takes me a lot of time to really realize that wasn't the way to solve the different issues that we were trying to target. And I remember we were super focused on building an app, this super fun app. I was super motivated about that. It was working with some artists, so somehow we weren't that wrong, right? So, and I was desperate of like, how is it possible that this is like a lottery? For some
Hmm.
artists, it doesn't matter the size, it doesn't matter the geography. I didn't understand it. And I remember speaking with one of my best friends that he's, for me, is one of the best guys in product ever. It's called Jacobo Lumbreras. He's a serial
Hmm.
entrepreneur. He's done it so many times and very good. And he looked at me like super impressed of how can you be so stupid? He's in front of your eyes. I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, dude, Pepe, you have all these tests. Look, this works amazing for this artist. This works amazing for this artist. Why don't you just offer artists all of it? And now, thanks to AI, you have the capabilities. If it were 10 fans, okay, you can do it manually, but you cannot do it manually with 500,000 fans.
So you
But
started realizing something that was actually showing success, and now it was just a matter of turning it into an app, right?
and it was a 15-minute meeting having a beer at my place in Los Angeles. That was it. And suddenly I remember that being super shocked. We were actually like 2 months away from burning all the money, the cash
Right.
that we have. So we were literally gonna die. And I was
Mm.
like, okay, do we have time or not? And we went all in. It worked out. And right now, the product that actually is working is that product or that iteration or evolution of the initial product of
That's
being able to
that's a super story, Pepe. That's amazing. So tell me a little bit. We mentioned the core problem in the beginning, right? The artist depends 100% on their fans, but they used to have zero visibility into their audience. So what changes now that they work with SESH? Can you describe the before and after? And what does that actually mean to an artist?
Hmm. So, like to make it super simple, imagine that you have a company that sells shoes or
Yeah.
teas or whatever. You normally know who are your clients, where are
Mm-hmm.
they, how much money they can spend on you, and on what they like to spend that money on, and then different ways so you can target those clients via emails, ads, or whatever you are the channels that you have, right? When it comes to the music industry, it's surprising because each artist is a company and they are the ones who depend the most on their fans. Their fans stream their music, their fans buy their merch, their fans buy VIP packages, buy tickets. And you will be surprised that when you ask an artist or their team who how many a super simple question that is how many fans do you have, they have no idea. And it's because they don't know who are
Mm-hmm.
where are they located, what do they want, how much money are they willing to spend on them and on what. And what we're doing is like, as artists are not content creators, there are always certain different things in order to engage with their fans. What we make sure is that we give you a product suite, so you're able to anything that you do, you're capturing your fan data. And with
Mm-hmm.
that, what we do for you is we analyze it and we help you understand it, which means who they are, where are they. I'm releasing a new song in 2 weeks and it's about X, Y, or Z. Okay, so based on your fan base, you should do X, Y, or Z action. And we give you the tools and the means so you're able to do that.
Okay, very cool. That sounds very compelling, right? You also did mention, and this is probably the most radical thing I've heard so far, that you had at some point in time 48 people in the company before generating any revenue. That's pretty aggressive, right? So, can you walk me through what happened there?
Uh, yeah, I think that's my fault 100% because I remember my co-founder always telling me like, Pepe, don't you think we're burning way too much money? And I remember always saying, hey, no worries, we will always be able to raise. That's not true. And then you start seeing the other flip of the coin. Every time you raise money, you're getting diluted yourself more and you're letting people join the company that have many different point of views. And it's very tough to manage those expectations. What happened to us was at the beginning, we were trying just to solve a need, not to build a business around that.
Okay.
We weren't focused on how are we going to monetize. We had no clue about how. At the beginning was like, this is a huge problem. If we're able to solve it,
This was a former investment banker not caring about money.
it was surprising because like normally I think I was so much into how you make money and justify me how you're gonna make money that I forgot that lesson myself.
It's so weird how things that apply for others often don't apply for us, right? Can you talk me through what were the warning signs that you missed? Like why were these wrong hires, and could you have figured that out sooner?
I mean, the problem in our case, it was like, for example, in my case, this is the first time I've tried to build something and I thought I knew how to do it because I've invested many times in different people that has successfully done it. But the reality is that writing a check, as you mentioned, and really doing it has nothing to do. And when we started, I remember we have many different things that we should start taking action and doing, and many different areas that we had no idea. I had no idea about tech. I had no idea about marketing. I had no idea about people. Like many different things that for me were obvious that you need to build a team, you need to build a culture, you need to give them the tools and the means so they're able actually to execute the vision that you want to achieve. And the biggest mistake we did at the beginning was hiring the wrong people, I guess. People that were on CV like super good with an amazing track record and CV as I mentioned, but maybe weren't for the early days of this company and didn't fit properly the culture. And that led us to a dynamic that then was horrible because within the right pillars and says, we start hiring a lot and a lot of people that obviously the majority of them didn't fit within the culture because they didn't know what to do. I mean, suddenly we were 48 people building something that we didn't even knew what we were doing. And I remember one of our investors that is an entrepreneur that I admired a lot. He told me something that actually was the thing that made us like go backwards and redo everything. And he told me when you start burning $100,000 a month, you feel like it's a quantity that you feel comfortable burning and so on, and you feel it is impossible that someday you will burn $1 million a month.
Right.
When you reach that level and you're burning $1 million a month, but you have the same level of traction that you used to have when you were burning $100,000 a month, what it's almost impossible is to go back and burn those $100,000 a month because
Right.
it's impossible for you to be able to do the same thing that you were doing back in those days. Impossible. And he was right. We're burning way too much money. And I was like thinking about how the hell are we going to do this? Like, it's impossible because if we don't have X, Y, or Z, we have no company. And actually, the traction was even better. So what's
And
going on
often
here?
you get more done with a much smaller team than with a larger team.
Well, the big paradox is right now, I think it's not very representative because at that time we were very small, but we are like 300x bigger than what we were during that time. Right now, full-time employees on the company, we have 12 employees. We've been able to automate everything that was more manual with AI. And our vision is not to scale the team to a team bigger than 15 or 20 people. We think that we can handle everything up by ourselves.
It's way, way leaner now, also with the help of AI.
We have a team that feels like a family, that are like super committed to the vision, real experts on their specific divisions, and they handle their agents or their small team. And we, all of us, meet every day on a daily meeting between 10 to 12 minutes. And it's just for everyone to have full visibility of what's going on and to be aligned with what we're going to execute.
And are people in different locations, or are they all in LA?
Different locations. We have people in Miami, we have people in Mexico City, we have people in LA, and we have people in Madrid.
Yeah.
And I feel a change between that, but we will figure it out. We've done things like, for example, we have a voice channel turn 24/7 where it feels like we're working on the same offices together, but it still is not the same. But that's a problem of next week or 2 weeks for Pepe, I would say.
Well, it's amazing how you were able to scale that back and still deliver more work essentially with that team of just 12 full-timers now, which is less than a quarter of what it was. So it sounds like you just started monetizing. I think you mentioned somewhere over 40 plus paying clients, if that's right. What is the next big milestone? Are you just basically growing the number of artists, just growing top line, or do you also care about the profitability side?
No, the profitability is super important for us. I think all the mistakes we've made had led us to this moment. That is, if we can, we want to avoid raising money. Thank God we have amazing partners as investors that has accompanied us until this moment and are always like leading us with advice, connections, network, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the ideal scenario for us will be like keep growing the artist base, so we grow top line, and the unit economics for our business is really good. Hopefully to be able to reach profitability by end this year, beginning next year, something like that. So yep, that
Very
will
cool.
be
Very cool. How do you get new artists? Like, what's your go-to-market strategy in a way?
That's an amazing question because that's something we're trying to figure out.
Okay.
So far, what has worked for us, it's been a word of mouth. An artist signed with Warner, start working with us. The label manager of Warner is happy with us, so it starts using it with the rest of their artists and talks about it to its peers and so on. That's how we've been growing so far. That it's very good, but we want to address more markets, more artists, more teams, and so on. So we're thinking about that. We've tried many different things. We've tried the ads. We've tried building a sales team. We've tried closing partnerships. And the reality for us is that what is working very well is closing those partnerships because it normally organically. And we do see that we have partners that we can bring value to their table and that they can obviously offer us a scale more, both on independent and non-independent artists. And I think that's probably gonna be more where we're gonna see things going in the next 3 to 6, 8 months.
Is the idea that you could find partners that can bring you multiple artists in one go?
Yes, well, Darkroom is one of our clients. We're working with them. And we have many of these kind of clients that, as you've mentioned, they not only work with one artist, they work with tens or hundreds of artists. So it's easier for us to onboard more. But the type of partnerships that we will be looking now will be more like, yes, dual partnerships like with distribution companies, for example, where says they can increase the level of the service they're offering to their artists and they can start generating a new revenue stream. Actually, that's something we're exploring and we're in close negotiations with some of the biggest distribution players. And I think that's the way to go on our case, but we'll tell you in a couple of months.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. And I always like to have people back on the podcast when they have a new announcement to make. So, we're looking forward to that already. Do you feel like you're mostly selling to the management companies then behind the artists, or are you actually still having to sell to every artist individually?
That's a great question. To be honest, it would be ideal if we could just sell to the artists. Because like we have a success rate of plus 95% when it comes talking directly to an artist. When you have third parties involved during that process, then you have a broken telephone that you don't know
Right.
what kind of information is getting transmitted properly or not. So it's tougher. But it's true that by selling our product to labels or management companies, it's easier for us to reach a scale. So always have trade-offs.
Yeah, exactly. Very good. So where will SESH go? Like when you think like a year ahead, 3 years ahead, maybe, like where do you want SESH to be? You've already mentioned I don't want the team to be bigger than 50, but there must be some other numbers that you have in mind, right?
My dream would be
Yes.
to have a company where we are like between 15 to 20 employees maximum, like super aligned with the vision, mission, and on what we're building and how we do it, being very, very profitable and distributing it with our investors, partners, and colleagues.
Okay. So is it more of a boutique you have in mind than some company that conquers the whole world?
No, 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 no. We want to go on this one. Yes, our idea is we're already very big in the Latin side. We are starting to grow a lot in the US, in general, the Western market. So probably in the next year, year and a half, we're gonna be very focused on the Western market and then start analyzing other markets. Like for example, India. India is a huge market that is booming right now. Australia, for example, it's super interesting for us. I guess we need to focus and go little by little, but our idea, the scenario that I will feel super proud to have been part of that journey would be to see a company that has completely reshaped the music industry. Like my vision, when I see from the outside an artist, I see two things. It's their art, that is their music or their IP,
Yeah.
and their fan base. That is their community, fans, super fans, however you want to call it. Their IP or their music is already super intermediated and they have a lot of capabilities and has been already disrupted like way too many times. But when it comes to their fan base, it hasn't been disrupted, never, basically.
Right.
With that, we have the power actually to make more artists being able to reach what we call their creative independence. That is basically for them to be able to make a living out of their music and being able to reshape an industry without them knowing that they needed something. From suddenly, we've seen that when we started, nobody was talking about community building in the music industry.
Right.
Now, all the big players and everyone knows that fan communities is the next big thing for the music industry and that they need to be super aware of that and working closely with the artists for them to be able to actually build proper communities, fan communities.
How do you tell your team to measure your company's impact? Is it primarily about the number of artists you serve or the number of communities, or maybe is it the number of fans that you reach around the world? How do you measure your impact on a non-monetary basis?
We have two key metrics. One that is the one that we share with our investors and that helps us keep track of how we're doing. It's number of paying artists, basically the MR that we generate. But then the other metric that we have is more internal, that it's to measure the health of our business. The health of our business comes if we're able to deliver value to the artist, right?
Right.
So we built a formula where we measure every stream on top we generate, every piece of merch, ticket, or VIP experience, or anything that we make possible to happen. And with that, we give it a punctuation based on a scale that we've built on the importance for the artist or not. And we see that number keep on a constant basis. And actually, we've seen many times where we thought we were doing very good because the number of artists on board there was growing. But at that metric, what you saw was that they weren't using it that much, or what it was worse, they were using it even more, but the value they were receiving wasn't good enough. The most important thing is the value that is provided to the artist.
I also do want to talk always a little bit, Pepe. I think I mentioned this to you about the person behind the company, right? Like what makes someone want to become a founder? What makes someone into a successful founder over time? I think you mentioned you grew up in Madrid in Spain, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit, what was that like to grow up there? What was your youth like?
Amazing. Well, I can tell you about what is it to be a founder, not a successful founder, because we think that we're not successful yet. But
you're setting the bar higher. I love it.
My youth was super happy. I'm the eldest of 8 siblings, so a lot of brothers and sisters. Born and raised in Madrid. Then I spent some time in Ireland. Did part of my high school in Washington. Then I studied.
Where do you fit in the sibling lineup? Were you the eldest or the youngest or somewhere in the middle?
I'm the eldest, so yes, I have like there's two ways of seeing it. I have a huge army after me, or I have a huge army like chasing me all the time.
Yeah. I'm
I
the
mean,
oldest too, only two siblings though, but yeah, so not a huge army.
no, but I think the majority of things I've learned it from that. A lot of my inspiration comes from my father. My father is an amazing entrepreneur and investor too, and probably the majority of things I've learned it from him. And
Really?
then having such a big family, you're always doing stuff. You're always surrounded by people. There's not quiet moments, and that's how SES looks like right now. From the second you wake up to the second you go to bed, there's no quiet moments. So there's no time for chilling. There's no time for resting. It's always something going on. Something is happening, and I've I've been living like that all my life. So that's I guess why I very fun.
Reminds me of the movie Auberge Espagnole, right? Like the Spanish
Actually,
hostel as like a
pretty similar to that.
exactly, very good.
My mother always says that is so funny because it was super sad of me going to study abroad, building abroad, and so on. And she was like, the best company you can ever build is doing a film or a documentary of our family. So why don't you do that? And that's it. And chill. And only you're right.
Tell us a little bit more about your father and what exactly in his career inspired you. Like, what kind of investments did he do and what kind of companies did he build?
Yes. Well, I think something that really inspired me. My father started in investment banking. Then he was one of the founders of an asset management that is called N Uno, that now is known for being Alantra. That is one of the biggest investment bankings in Europe, I guess. And then I remember during that time he left that company and he started building something that was called to despensa.com, something like that. That was one of the first online supermarkets in Europe. And I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking like, why do you do this now? Like, I mean, we're eight. We are not just one. So you have a huge responsibility. We are a lot of people like that you're feeding and in terms of education and everything, you know? And I remember like looking at him like super chill, and he just did it. And it didn't went well, but then he did it again and he built this. He's now a partner and CEO of Arcana, that is one of the largest asset management too in Europe, and very big in the US too. And the image that I have from him is like never get stressed. He's always like, it seems like he has everything under control. When you speak to him, it's like he has never in his life had anything under control. He just get used to that mindset, and he just keeps solving fires and trying to do the to perform at the best he can.
Living with uncertainty and being comfortable with it almost is what you're saying, right?
100%. And actually, when you ask him, he always tells you the same. I have two companies, my company and then my family. That is like another company with anyone with any specific son with their problems, their issues, their goals, their visions, everything is like, okay, you need to remember about everything. You need to follow all of them. So yeah,
So in the family company, he has at least 6 OKRs, it sounds like, maybe 7.
20.
Exactly. And but it also sounds like when you were younger, you did have some conflict about your passion for music versus needing to get a real education, right? And was that just like the age of being in adolescence and having to learn more about life, or how do you look back at that now?
I think I'm lucky for having had the chance to receive, or for receiving the education that I receive, and
Mm.
the possibilities or the resources to access the type of education, and also for the pressure from my parents in this case to actually help me and guide me to
Mm-hmm.
grades, get into the right uni. What I learned from university was, I think, it's only one thing: work hard. Full stop.
Right.
You work hard, you're always gonna be able to find a way to solve the things that you're gonna need. It may take you more time or less time depending on how smart you are, what you
Mm-hmm.
have, and how connected you are. But if you work hard, you're gonna be able to do it. So that's kind of the mindset that I operate with, and it's like always working hard, having where I want to go towards, and trying to work towards that.
It sounds like that persistence that you keep coming back to, it's both what inspired you about your father and also what translates into working hard at university. Just don't give up, just keep going. Would you say that that's the essence of being more successful as an entrepreneur?
Um, I think being more successful as an entrepreneur varies depending on each person. But in my case, 100%, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'm not the guy with more connections. I'm not the guy that neither works harder than the rest. But one thing that I do have is I'm super resilient. I never give up. I think the reason why SES exists as of today is because we've never give up. Full stop. That's it. And it's what we were mentioning. Maybe it takes us more time than we would want or that we would desire to get where we want, but we get there, you know?
That's excellent. I love it. Final question, Pepe, when you are advising entrepreneurs that come behind you, maybe advising your own kids one day, like just like your dad inspired you, like what would you tell them?
Be resilient, but not stupid. You need to realize when to stop or pivot, because that's one of my problems. I never give up, but it's very tough for me to
It's
move
the other
quick.
side of the medal, right? Yeah.
Cash is king. Always look at the cash. Like companies die because of the cash.
Yeah.
If you're able to control the cash and to gain that freedom, that's gold for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do something that really motivates you or that is one of your passions. Because
Mm-hmm.
what I've seen in the past, and this is more in my role as an investor, and right now I keep investing a lot in many different projects. It makes a huge difference if what you're building really moves you or not, because
Mm-hmm.
that's the difference that when something is like in the case of SES, for example, we've been flirting with bankruptcy 3 times, but we're very, very close. Okay. And during those moments, I remember like sitting down with my co-founder and we started chatting about like, okay, what would we do? And it wasn't that dramatic. We have a lot of experience. We have people that will hire us immediately. We had everything. So that wasn't a drama. The drama was like, and that was our real question. Dude, I remember the last time we had 172 artists active in the platform.
Mm-hmm.
We're not able. We were 3 weeks away from starting down the company, and that means like not being able to pay AWS to sustain the service. It was like a complete catastrophe. And we were talking about like how are we gonna handle that these 172 artists are not gonna have access to this in 3 weeks. And right now we're not in the best position ever. We know that we're just at the earliest days of
Right.
the success could be in the future. You know. And for me, that's the most important thing. If you really do something that drives you, that motivates you, that
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna keep pushing.
Because giving up on the mission is more painful than having
Right.
to find a different job, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I love it. That's very good. And it does, I think, tie back to your passion about your music and, going into the music industry instead of a real education, but still showing a big
God.
success there, right? That's amazing. A real last question is, of course, always like if anyone wants to get in touch with SESH or wants to maybe introduce an artist to the platform, where do they go and what should they download?
Oh, yes. You can just go to joinses.ai to our webpage, and there we have a contact email, or you can book a demo, apply to our affiliate programs. And if you want to reach me out directly through LinkedIn, I'm trying to be super responsive too.
Okay, and of course I can introduce people to Pepe as well. If you know me already and you want an introduction to Pepe, then just ask me and I'll introduce you to LinkedIn as well. So thank you so much for this amazing podcast and for being open about all my questions, Pepe del Rio, founder and CEO of SESH. And this has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much for having me today, Roland.
The Scaling Without Breaking podcast requires more than a conversation. It takes action, research, and collective wisdom. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future together. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions that are making a difference for everyone. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe, rate, write a review, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.